All right, let's get started because we are at time and we have a lot of stuff to cover in this session. So this is Drupal 11 Deep Dive, what's new, how to prepare. And we talk about a lot of things. These slides are open source. Why am I not getting that there? Which I tried like 5 times. Let's try this again. Did you freeze my... Oh, this works. All right, it got disconnected. Let's try this again. Yeah, this is, I think they are connected to each other because I have the speaker view here. But we can open this up again. Let me do that. So this is the Drupal. Oh, I see why it doesn't work. It's great that I tried, but then I failed. Let's do this again. Speaker view here. Your view is going to be this one. And my view is going to be this one. So the slides are open source because I like open content. I came from open content to open source. I did open content before I did open source. So I'm a big believer in that. This is the QR code for all the slides. They have copious speaker notes, so if you want to present this at your event, at your company, at your meetup, whatever, you can present it. I have speaker notes, links, and everything. I am myself Gábor Hojtsy. I work as a full stack community organizer. That's a made-up title that I made up for myself because I work on some development for Drupal. I work on event organization. I work on social media. I work in putting things on stage for events like this one and keynotes at DrupalCons. I work on developer documentation videos for the Dries note. You may have heard about the starlight accents in Dries's videos. That was me. So yeah, so I do a lot of things. So it's basically full stack community organization. And I'm a Drupal contributor for 21 years and a core committer since 2007. I was in the PHP team before, so I was the lead for the PHP.NET website and the PHP documentation before I came to Drupal. But this is more about you. Is there anybody new to Drupal in the audience? Great. Is there anybody already on Drupal 11? No. There's some sites on Drupal 11. Who's on Drupal 10? All right, that's almost everybody. Who has a Drupal 9 site? Okay, that's like 20% of the audience. Who has a Drupal 8 site? Some of you, okay, that's probably very insecure. Who has a Drupal 7 site? Great. Half of the audience, great. Earlier Drupal sites? I have one earlier. Okay, it's like 4 of us or 5 of us. Great. So I was also the core maintainer of Drupal 6, so I have a lot of fun memories of that time. So it's great. We have a good spread of, most of you have Drupal 10, half of you have Drupal 7. It's great. We're going to talk about why do we do Drupal 11, what's in there, what are the tools to get there. But we can't really ignore Starshot in the room, right? So who was there at the Starshot keynote yesterday? Okay, that's like 80% of the room. So for 20% of you, I will have a very short recap of how Starshot and Core relate to each other. So Starshot is a package of Drupal core and a bunch of things. So Starshot includes Drupal core and then automatic updates, which includes package manager. So that's what automatically updates your projects, but it's also what provides a Composer API, so we can build UIs on top of Composer, like automatic updates. We can also build this UI on top of Composer that's called Project Browser, which allows you to browse for projects and install them with Package Manager on the UI using your Composer backend. And then installing those projects is not really enough because there's still a gap between you installing 5-star module and how you get 5-star actually working on a content type. Like, what can you do about that? So that's what the recipes capability provides us. And then there's going to be the actual recipes that are in Starshot. So there's going to be a CMS recipe baseline that provides a common understanding of what general Drupal sites should have. And there's going to be a bunch of add-on recipes that you can add on top of that as well. And the CMS recipes could be multiple different use cases, like here's a headless backend or an AI orchestrator backend thing, or here's a university website, or here's some other kind of thing. And those recipes could be made by organizations. So like a university could create a CMS-based recipes for the university, and then the university website would be based off of that recipe, and they would add additional functionality on top of that. Project Browser also has the capability to provide additional source plugins. So like a hosting company like Acquia can provide Acquia-vetted recipes or recipes for our products that make it easy to integrate Drupal with our products, and then you would have a tab in the Project Browser that's like integrate with Acquia products, that kind of thing. So this is basically Drupal Starshot. It's core and a bunch of things. And this is what we plan to put out this year. So most of the components are very close to done. So this is possible to put out this year. We need work, obviously, on that to be happening, but it's not a far-fetched idea. And ultimately, there could be a possible future where all of those capabilities we can put into Drupal core. Recipes already in Drupal core, the recipes capability. So you can do recipes, you can do default content, you can have config actions, there's config checkpoints. All of those are new APIs in Drupal 10.3. And we will add automatic updates, package manager, and project browser in core. That's the plan. And that would lead to a Drupal core that's Starshot capable, is what I say, is that it's capable of installing all of these things. And then the recipes may not be in core, the add-on recipes may be remote or maybe in Starshot, those kind of things for Starshot itself. But the ideal end result is that we have a Starshot capable core that can install all of these things. So ultimately, there could be a convergence in capability between Drupal core and Starshot. But Starshot will still focus on providing all of these features and providing a focus on solving all of those user problems for that user persona. So Drupal core will focus on providing the capabilities, and Starshot will focus on serving the user. I think that's the clear distinction between the two. That also means that some Starshot features may get into Drupal core. So for example, Experience Builder that we've been talking about a lot could be a capability that comes into Drupal core in the later version of Drupal 11. But some of them will remain in recipes. So there's a bunch of modules that we'll never add into core or themes. And also, it means that some core features will be removed because Starshot will provide something better. So for example, if Starshot provides a search API module with a configuration of that works, then why would we need the search module in core that almost nobody is using? Or if Starshot provides a recipe for a contact form with web form module, then why would core need the contact module? These are not discussions that we have firm decisions on yet, but these are the kind of discussions that we are doing. So now that we have a mechanism to deliver simply configured complex features to users that make it easy to start, we don't need the simpler versions of features built into core because they just result in duplication of work. We don't need the alternate version that's simple in core when we can configure the best practice version in a simple way for people to use and contrib. So that allows us to remove stuff from core. Removing is a star because we are deprecating in Drupal 11 and removing in Drupal 12. We'll talk about how that happens a bit later. It also means that Starshot will likely be released on Drupal 11. Hopefully all of the modules will be ready on time that we want to use, and all of the functionality will be there for Drupal 11. There's reasons for them to be ready. There's reasons for them to not necessarily be ready. We'll talk about that a bit later, but we hope to release it on Drupal 11. The prototype that we built for DrupalCon Portland, that you can already try it out, the Starshot prototype, is built on Drupal 10.3. But we hope to build the final Starshot, or this year's version of Starshot, on Drupal 11. So who here believes that Drupal 11 is too soon, and why do we already have Drupal 11? Anybody? No? Okay, Hilmar, thank you. I was hoping like half of the audience would be like, no, just got on Drupal 10. All right, so I may have a controversial statement for this. So this is like my mic drop statement, is that Drupal 11 is early so that you can avoid it longer. So why is that? Because there's nothing that pressing us to release Drupal 11 now. This is the first major release where it's first major release in quite a while, where it's our choice to release Drupal 11. Because there's no Seek Editor end of life, there's no Symfony end of life, there's no end of lives anywhere in our dependencies that force us to release Drupal 11 now. So we decided to release Drupal 11 now. Why? We decided to release Drupal 11 now because we can start on early versions of our dependencies on jQuery, Symfony, jQuery UI, etc. Start on early versions of them, so we can provide longer-term support of Drupal 11, and also that we can continue supporting Drupal 10 as long as the dependencies are supported. So Drupal 10 will be supported until mid-late 2026 when Drupal 12 is released. There's 2 more years of support from now. So that means that we are releasing Drupal 11 next month, but there's no big pressure to immediately move to Drupal 11, which is great, I think. So the practical way of how this is going to happen is, so we had Drupal 10 was released in December 2022. We have Drupal 11, which is released this year, week of July 29 is the date. So it's next month, it's in a month. We will have Drupal 12 released in mid-late 2026, depending on how ready we will be for that. And the new concept from Drupal 10.4 is that we'll start releasing LTS versions of Drupal. And that means that we'll not put more new features into Drupal 10 anymore. We'll not put new disruptive APIs in Drupal 10. So it will be much more chill in Drupal 10. Will be bug fixes, will be backported fixes for the upgrade path, but it will be much more stable. So there's be less chance of anything breaking in your sites, because we'll be a lot more conservative about what we put into the LTS minor versions of Drupal 10. Same is true for Drupal 11. It will go to LTS in the middle of 2026. And so you may see where this is going. The Drupal 10 will be EOL mid-late 2026, and Drupal 11 will be EOL mid-late 2028. And so what that means is there will be a way to jump from LTS to LTS for from Drupal 10 to Drupal 11. So you could, from now, wait out while the ecosystem is stabilizing. You can jump onto a minor version on like mission-critical websites for your customers, where there's less of a disruption at that point. There's no new APIs added, no, the field UI is not being rewritten, that kind of stuff. And so there's less disruption expected for the actual websites, and there's more stability. So it's great that we're releasing Drupal 11 this year. There's a lot of great things about it, but the reason we are doing it is so that you can safely stay on Drupal 10 for longer. So for that to work out, we need to release Drupal 11 this year, because then we can go to Drupal 10 LTS. We can continue innovating on Drupal 11 while keeping Drupal 10 stable. It's going to be very painful for the core committers because they need to maintain a lot of branches all at once. It's already very confusing because we have the Drupal 10, we'll have the Drupal 11 code base that's already in beta, and so we have the 11.1 code base to make the more disruptive changes, and then we have the 11.0 code base. We're working on the 10.4 code base because 10.3 is already out, and we're working on the 10.3 code base because then it receives bug fixes. So we're working on all of those things, and the Drupal 10.2 or still receives security fixes. So we're working on 10.2, 10.3, 10.4, 11.0, and 11.1. 5 code bases we're working on all at once for modern Drupal, and we're still working on Drupal 7 too. So It's very complicated for core committers to make your life easier with your customers. So the timelines for Drupal 11 is we've had an alpha release in May. We've had a beta release middle of May. We expect an RC1 on the week of July 1st. That may be a bit delayed based on all the things that are happening right now. And we expect the final stable GA, whatever you want to call it, release on the week of July 29. So that's more like the first days of August, is towards the end of the week. So that's what you should think about. So in terms of the bigger picture timeline, it looks like this. We have 10.3 already released. 10.4 is going to be this year, and 10.5 will be next year. And we have 11 now, and then 11.1, 11.2, etc. And we'll have 12, and we'll have 13. So we have now this 2-year cadence, where the first 2 years is new features, and the next 2 years is LTS. So this is basically the timeline here. We always supported the release for 1 year. We'll keep releasing new minor versions every half a year. And then there's overlapping support of 10 with 12 and 11 with 13, etc. And there's the elephant in the room, I guess, is Drupal 7 EOL is finally coming up on January 5 and will not be extended. Some companies are selling extended support if you really need extended support, but will not be extended by the community. On the flip side, so this is like all the versions that are coming up. And on the flip side, Drupal 7 core migrations are still included in Drupal 11. So they're still there. You can, all the migrations, the migration APIs, all the migrations themselves are still in Drupal 11. Even Drupal 6 migrations are still in Drupal 11 core because they use the same API, so we didn't want to remove them, the 6th version, so they are still there. So for some of you adventurous, you can start migrating to Drupal 11. It's going to be released next month. If the contrib modules are there, you may be jumping from Drupal 7 to Drupal 11 instead of 10. So how are we building Drupal 11? So how many of you are aware of the deprecation process that we use in Drupal core and how we add new features? Okay, it's great that I'm explaining this here. So the way that we do this is we release Drupal 10, and then Drupal 10.1 comes out, and we add something new into Drupal 10.1, a new API, a new module, a new something. And then we mark the old thing that we want to remove deprecated. So we add a new module, we mark the old one deprecated, that we don't want you to use anymore. And that goes on until like the final feature release of Drupal 10, which in this case 10.3, and then we have a bunch of new things in there and a bunch of deprecated things. So we have like new APIs for stuff, we have deprecated APIs for stuff. We have new modules, we have deprecated modules. And so we basically build all of the new features of Drupal 11 inside Drupal 10. And the benefit of that is that we get a lot of early feedback from people on new things. So we put stuff into 10.1, we get feedback about it. We put new stuff in 10.2, 10.3, we got feedback about it. We can fix it in 11. And we also have an indication of what we will be removed in 11, so people know ahead of time what will they need to do to move to Drupal 11. And so all that we do in Drupal 11 in general is we remove all the gray ones with the deprecated things, and we keep all the new things that we've already added. Those are already there. And we update the dependencies that underlie the system. So for example, jQuery 3 we update to 4, Symfony 6 we update to 7 in Drupal 11. So that's how we do core development. This allows us to push out new things in minor versions every 6 months. This allows us to inform you of the changes ahead of time so you're not surprised. This allows you to gradually update to the new APIs. And this allows us to make an easier release of Drupal 11 that's more predictable. It doesn't take like unspecifiable time of building all the new things and removing stuff. So that's the way we work. And we also did this to a bunch of modules. So these modules were deprecated in Drupal 10, Action UI, Book, Forum, Tour, Tracker, and Statistics. And they are removed from Drupal 11. And when we remove modules, the way we do this is we recruit maintainers for the contrib version of the module, so they move to contrib. And so people can continue using them from contrib. But these are little used modules in core. They don't have an ecosystem in contrib. They are not well maintained in core. They could be better maintained in contrib. And statistics is a great example because FGM took on the statistics module. And he has a really good idea of how to make a privacy compliant a privacy compliant statistics thing that's not tracking users and therefore does not require cookie consent. It's not using cookies, but it's still useful for tracking site visits. And he has a roadmap there for the statistics module to bring it there. So that's a great example of we're getting something out of core that got little love in core, and finally somebody cares about it and takes ownership. So I think that's a great example of the benefit of removing stuff from core and getting somebody love it now. So the question of what's new in Drupal 11 is nothing. So it's the same features that you can see in Drupal 10.3. There's stuff that we removed. That's not new. We removed them. And the system requirements and the dependencies are updated. So there's nothing new in Drupal 11. So when we do press releases and announcements, it's very hard to write. It's like it's the brand new version of Drupal that can already do what we released last month in 10.3. So the Drupal core improvements that we did from 10.2, what we did from 10.0 are a lot of things. So we put in seek editor auto formatting and single directory components that's now stable. We have decoupled menus. We have field UI, a whole new field UI by 10.2. We have floating block operations, easier block management, big pipe interface preview API. We have a lot of performance improvements and performance testing. We have project announcements. We did a bunch of stuff in 10.3 that was released a couple of weeks ago or last week, so it's pretty new still. We have a new experimental navigation module, which is great. We have an experimental recipes API where you can uninstall install profiles now. The workspaces are stable after a long time. There's a new access policy API that can take other conditions than roles and permissions. There's taxonomy term revisions and moderation support. So there's a lot of cool things in 10.3. So this is all in Drupal 11.0. All of the features that we've already put into Drupal 10. And there's going to be new things later in Drupal 11. As I said, there's going to be hopefully project browser, automatic updates, package manager, experience builder, more recipes improvements, etc., and whatever other things that we want to do to enable Starshot to happen, and common components from Starshot that we think that belong in the core code base that contrib modules would benefit from. So that's the idea for future versions of Drupal 11. But there's nothing new in Drupal 11. It's the same as 10.3. System requirements, I don't think this is very controversial because they're not really super new versions. MySQL 8, MariaDB 10.6, SQLi 3.45, Burgas 16, PHP 8.3, Composer 2.7.7, and Drush 13 is not a system requirement. But if you use Drush, then Drush 13 is the only version that supports Drupal 11. So you need to upgrade to Drush 13 if you use Drush, but it's not a requirement for running Drupal. One particular area that's particularly cool, I think, is PHP 8.3. So I guess benchmarks are a loaded question, whether they are good or not. So let's not argue about this. But there's a benchmark that Kinsta is doing regularly with all kinds of systems, including Drupal. So they benchmark Drupal 10.1. On PHP 8.1 was 922 requests per second. The same PHP 8.2 was 941. Any guesses of PHP 8.3? 10,000? 2,000. Okay. 1,600. Okay, not bad. So it's 1,432. So please update to PHP 8.3. Like if you have a Drupal site, Drupal 10 site, just update to PHP 8.3. You'll get better performance on your site. Okay? As independent of Drupal 11, just update to PHP 8.3. It's good. So we've also updated our dependencies in Drupal 11. We are now on Symfony 7, jQuery 4, jQuery UI 1.14, and PHP Unit 10. The PHP Unit update was super hard And 10 is not even the latest PHP unit version. This 11 now is out. The good news is that you will be able to run your tests on both PHP unit 9 and 10. So if you have a contrib module or your custom code that has PHP unit tests, you'll be able to run them on 9 and 10. But Drupal 11 cannot run with PHP unit 9 because of all kinds of API changes that we need to care for. But if you have tests, you have contrib modules, you can make them run on both PHP unit 9 and 10. So what are the tools that you want to use? So first, there's upgrade status, which is a module I maintain, so it's great. I looked at the usage numbers, and I recognized that it's a top 100 module somehow on the module repository because it's 50,000 sites that are using it, which is odd that they use it in a way that it's reported for update status, but they are doing it. So upgrade status recently got an amazing UI overhaul, so it looks fantastic in Gin now in dark mode and light mode. It also looks fantastic in Core Claro, of course. But this is basically a tool that provides you with an all-stop shop of like what do you need to do to upgrade. So it checks your server environment of how ready you are, whether you're running the right version of Drupal, PHP, databases, Drush. It checks all of those dependencies. It checks all of the modules that you're running, whether there's updates on Drupal.org for the modules or not. It encourages you to contribute to modules if they're not yet ready for Drupal 11. If you have custom code, then it runs PHP 10 on it. It runs tweak deprecation checking, CSS, JavaScript, info files, config schema, a lot of deprecation checking. So it does a lot of all of the deprecation checking that we do, all of the deprecations that we do, almost all of them it can check. So basically on Drupal 10, it gives you a checklist of these are the things you need to do to get on Drupal 11. And then it like provides a summary at the top of how ready you are, and it provides next steps for every single thing. Like this is the next step you should do for this. This is the next step you should do for this. And it guides you to get ready with everything. And then there's code that you have and you want to update. So that's what Drupal Rector is for. So this is a tool that upgrade status will suggest you in case there's code that you need to update. And we have automated fixes for that. So Drupal Rector is basically a replacement tool that is very super intelligently can replace old APIs with new APIs. And there's a lot of work that went into this with within Pronovix, then Palantir, then Matt Glaman, then Björn Brala. So there's several contributors that put a lot of work into this. And so this automates the code fixes for you from Drupal 10 to 11. And then we built a layer on top of this automation called the Project Update Bot. That's on Drupal.org. It already opened more than 7,600 issues on projects. And more than 740 are already closed. So it now posts patches and merge requests for projects. So it suggests fixes for projects to make them compatible with Drupal 11. If it cannot make the project compatible with Drupal 11, that it also attaches that post-rector.txt file, which is the result from upgrade status after the automated fixes are applied. So once we get all the automated fixes, what are the manual fixes that you still need to do? So it informs you about that. That's new in this iteration. And so it guides you, again, through fixing the contributed projects. And it's been pretty successful doing that. The reason that it posts MRs now, that anybody knows the reason? It's because of this. So July 1st, in 4 days, patches will be over. Patches will not be tested anymore, no patches. So you can still upload patches in 5 days, but they will not be tested anymore. No testing for patches. So from 5 days from now, all the MRs will get testing on Drupal.org. Patches will not get testing. So you can upload patches if you want, but they will be just text files. So you need to convert to merge requests. There's a great guide on Drupal.org. I did it to almost all of my modules now. There's guide you step by step on how you convert from Drupal CI to GitLab CI. And there's a lot of great things, and we'll cover one great thing later in the session there that's super great about it. So in 4 days, patches will be no more. So convert to GitLab CI as soon as possible. So Drupal 10.3 defined all the deprecated APIs, all of the deprecated modules, because as I said, we're not adding any new things anymore. We are only fixing things in Drupal 10 now. So we defined all of the things that we wanted to change for Drupal 11. So you can run upgrade status now, get a checklist of what you need to do, and start working on it. So basically, the way to get to Drupal 11 is to update to PHP 3 now, because that's the only reasonable thing to do, and Drupal 10.3, and then start updating projects to Drupal 11 compatibility on Drupal.org and on your own sites. We are also tracking on how the community is doing. So we have the deprecation status project, which is basically uses the data behind the update bot and presents the data in a very easy to understand way. So we are running this on dev.arcade.com/Drupal11, and it has all of the project results from everywhere. So if you look at this data as of a few days ago, then 24% of all projects on Drupal.org are in some form of compatibility. So they're either stable or RC beta, or they are compatible in dev, one of those 3 categories. So 24% is pretty good 1 month before the release, I think. If you filter to the top 200 projects, that's 42%. So that's quite cool. If you use the best practice modules, the most used modules, then they are getting there very fast. It's also good news, I think, that the bot can fix 72% of all of the remaining issues that are still there that have not been fixed yet, because the bot can fix info files and composer files and all the rector covered issues. So that's more than 72%. It's pretty cool. So if you have a bot issue in your project, you can trust that it's going to be helpful. It may not be complete, but it's going to help you move forward a lot. But there's always going to be modules that don't get updated. Anybody struggled with modules before that didn't get updated? Anybody? All right, a third of you did. OK, so there's 2 solutions to this. First of all, there's a new thing that we set up called the Project Update Working Group, which is like it's a Ghostbusters group, basically. So for ghost modules, they don't bust the ghost modules. They actually run into the ghost modules, and they take over maintainership very briefly. And they update the module, and then they get out of the house. So that's the Project Update Working Group. So when modules become ghosts, that people don't maintain them anymore, then they have a very well-detailed process, which is very considerate of the maintainers, of how they're going to go in there and update the module for the new major version. So there's a lot of people that signed up for this group. I don't know if anybody's in the room for that group. No? OK. No, you are. Great. We have 1 person. I didn't want to put you on the spot, sorry, to talk to Sven about updating modules to Drupal 11. But this group is helpful for updating projects to Drupal 11 that would otherwise be abandoned. But there still could be a case when they don't agree that it needs to be intervened yet, and you want some kind of solution. So if you need a solution for your site, there's 2 Composer plugins that you can use. There's the Composer Drupal Lenient plugin, which allows you to require projects that are not compatible with Drupal 11 in your Composer codebase. And there's the Composer Patches project, which allows you to apply patches. Yes, I just said that patches are over, but to apply something locally to your site, you will still need to have patches locally on your site. So testing patches on Drupal.org will be over, but the way you are applying changes on your local site will still be, I think the best practice will still be Composer patches, because that allows you to maintain, to have an overview of what you actually changed from the code base that's online. So one good news, though, about this is Drupal 12 will be even easier, or could be even easier. So what if we're using MRs and GitLab CI, and there would be a report on GitLab CI that tells you that your code quality is not good enough because this function was deprecated in Drupal 9 and will be removed in Drupal 11, and use this one instead? What if GitLab CI would provide you with this feedback? Or what if I would submit a MR for a module, and the MR review UI inline would tell me that this core version requirement is not compatible with Drupal 11? What if that would be a thing? It is a thing. So we built a thing 2 months ago, so this is 2 months old, for GitLab CI called run job upgrade status. So this is a variable in your GitLab CI YAML file. That's a configuration for GitLab CI. So when you set this to 1, then GitLab CI will run upgrade status on your MR, your module, etc., wherever you put this in the GitLab CI. And because upgrade status doesn't only do this fancy UI thing, it also runs on Drush, and it also can do code climate, JSON output, and XML, and a bunch of other machine-readable things. And this is GitLab CI supports code climate JSON, and upgrade status gives GitLab CI code climate JSON. And so GitLab CI can put this in line of the MRs and the projects. And so this provides continuous feedback on forward compatibility of your MRs and projects. So if you enable this job, then every contributor working on your project will be informed if their MR is not compatible with Drupal 12. All the things to the extent of the deprecations that we already know for Drupal 12. So as time comes, then will people get continuous feedback on forward compatibility of their projects. So ideally, if more people use this, then by the time Drupal 12 comes, then a lot more projects will be basically ready for Drupal 12 because they get continuous feedback while they're being worked on about forwards compatibility of their project. So I think that could be great. All right, so in summary, Drupal 11 is on the week of July 29, which is more first days of August. Move to PHP 8.3 as soon as possible. That's the only thing that makes sense. It makes it very easy to move to Drupal 11. There's no rush to adopt Drupal 11, but it's highly automated, and many people are already doing it. A lot of projects are already moving there. So it's not going to be too hard. And use upgrade status and Drupal Rector for moving there when you're ready. And hopefully Drupal 12 will be even easier because we continue to improve our tooling and build it into all of the tools that we have. So if you want to join this process, the Drupal 11 meetings are every Monday in Drupal 11 readiness. And if you want to sign your support, I have a few stickers. This goes to Drupal 11 if you want to have for your computers, phones, or whatever you want. So this is for the talk. Questions? Yes? Wait.
I can also shout.
They want it on the recording, though.
Okay, so my question is,
Yes.
there's no rush to upgrade to Drupal 11.
Yes.
But this is a catch-22. Because
Yes.
if people don't upgrade to Drupal 11, then Contrib doesn't get upgraded to Drupal 11.
Yes.
So everybody stays in Drupal 10.
Yes.
Drupal 12 comes along, and suddenly there's a rush to upgrade stuff to Drupal 11.
Yes.
So I do think that we also need to tell people start using Drupal 11 as soon as possible because we need Contrib to upgrade. I personally am waiting for admin toolbar to upgrade to Drupal 11.
Yeah.
And I don't see any move there, for instance. And I don't want to become a co-maintainer, which is another option that you didn't specify there.
Yes,
Is
that's
if
an
you're
option,
sick
yes.
of waiting for a module to be upgraded to the version you want to use, apply to be a co-maintainer. And then at some point you have a big list of all the modules that you maintain.
Yeah, I have some colleagues that do that, yeah, that are maintainers of 300 modules.
So that wasn't really a question. It's just like I would urge everyone start using Drupal 11 as soon as possible because we need the modules there.
Yeah. I don't want to say you don't start using Drupal 11, but there's no rush in using Drupal 11. So I think this helps a lot with raising awareness on Drupal 11 because we are actively pushing the idea to every project that, hey, Drupal 11 is here and it would be great to get updated. And a lot of people do that. So it took me a long time to find the right slides, but this is good proof that it's happening. So I'm not that concerned about that.
You can
I think the message is not for not getting these updated, but the message is more for there's no like the house is not on fire.
Yeah, I know. It's working nice, but if you go to the Drupal 10, like I know that URL you gave, you can switch to Drupal 10. You see what's happening since 1 year and a half ago or whatever when Drupal 10 was released, and you can still see that there are some that never got the even though they're ready, they never got upgraded. So if people don't use the modules, maintainers are out. There's not much that the update bot can do. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what the project update working group is designed to help with, though.
For that one, people will need to raise a hand and say, "Hey, I want someone from the project update group to come in," right?
But it's less of a commitment than co-maintaining a module, so it's still like there's layers of like you can become a co-maintainer, you can raise it with a project update working group, you can apply the composer lenient thing. So there's several layers of comfortability and how you do solve the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you have a mic.
Oh.
Yes.
If you, on the slide where you showed the LTS version and so on, there were some details that struck me as maybe a bit strange. So we're releasing 10.4 as the LTS version, but then we still release 10.5 half a year later, and then after that there's a year of no minor updates. So I was wondering why we... Yeah, okay, I'll let you go back first. Yes, that one. So we released 10.4 as the LTS version coinciding with 11.1.
Yeah.
But we still release 10.5, but then half a year later in Q4 we don't release a new minor. So why do we release 10.5 as an... So
core minor versions are supported for 12 months. That's the policy. So the 10.5 goes for 12 months from the middle of 2025 to the middle of 2026. And if we don't release 10.5, then we would need to extend the support window of 10.4, which we didn't plan for. So I think we go with the regular every 6 months minor release, and every minor release is supported for 12 months. And so that's how we arrive at 12.5. I don't know what will even be in 12.5 or if that would be required in terms of semantic versioning that we do the minor version. That could be like equally a bug fix version of 10.4. We don't know yet. But that allows us to have a window of making changes that we would only do in a minor version still there. We could release a 10.6, but then we would need to support it much later, which our dependencies don't allow. So that's why it's set up like that.
But the 1 year I kind of forgot about. So
yeah, it's 1 year. So there's half a year with bug fixes and half a year with security fixes only is what we do.
And the second question I had is, why is 10.3 and, for example, 11.3 makes maybe a bit more sense with the timing, but now 11.0 is released 1 month after 10.3. Why didn't we mark 10.3 as an LTS?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. We are not going to make disruptive changes in 10.3 anymore. So we could mark it as an LTS. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, it's just naming them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for a great presentation. So if there are new APIs in, let's say, 10.4 that cause deprecations, I'm trying to think this through. If there are deprecations in the LTS version, sorry, if there are new APIs in 11.1, say, that will be removed in 12. Oh, this question is sort of falling apart as I say it, but I'm just wondering, will new features or new APIs be supported in the LTS releases, or are they going to be only in the current version?
There's not going. So I'm trying to this one. Finally, it arrived. So we're not planning on deprecating things in 10.4 anymore. So that's part of the LTS concept, is that we are doing the minimal changes required to support you to fix any issues with upgrading to 11. We hope that that doesn't require API changes. It may require new APIs, I don't know, but it's definitely not API changes, because we want the LTS versions to be a lot more stable than even more stable than the non-LTS versions before. There's like when we redesigned the field UI that caused problems for some people, for example, even though we tried to do it the best way possible. So that's not going to be a thing anymore in Temp4. So it's going to be a lot more conservative.
Okay. Sorry, now I just figured out in my head now. So if there are new APIs in 11.1, etc.
11.1, yes.
Can modules start using those while still supporting the 10 LTS?
Yes.
Or will they have to wait till 12?
Yes. Yeah, so one thing that I should have included in the slides, but I forgot, is I think 10.1 or 2 introduced the deprecation helper class, which allows you to encapsulate this is the code that should run on an older version, and this is the code that should run on a newer version. It's a helper class that allows you to encapsulate these areas where you need two different sets of code to run based on the version of core. So now Drupal 10 has a helper for that makes it easier to do that, so that's possible. And Rector is trying to suggest some of that in the Rector rules as well to make it easier to support older versions and newer versions at the same time. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Drupal 10 will run a lot longer alongside Drupal 11 than we did with Drupal 9 and 10. So the contrib ecosystem will need to somehow account for that if we succeed.
Thanks. One of the things you said in the previous answer, the answer to the previous question, makes me ask this. What is the best point of upgrading to Drupal 11 from Drupal 10? Let's say 10.5 to 11.1 or 2. Is it going to be easier, you think, or directly from 10.3 to 11? Because you said that in 10.4 and 5, you're going to make it easier to transition to 11.
So in 10.4 and 5, we are going to fix, if there are issues with upgrading to Drupal 11, we're going to fix that. We don't have plans on working on a much easier upgrade path or stuff like that. So that's not what the scope is. The scope is to fix stuff that we figure out that cause problems for people. Is not to design a new upgrade system that's much easier. That's not the scope. So the point to upgrade to Drupal 11 is when your site is ready to upgrade. So you install upgrade status on the site. It's going to tell you how far you are. And start working through that on Drupal 10 so that you do it on Drupal 10. You don't need to think about moving to Drupal 11 yet. You have your Drupal 10 site. You are gradually updating your Drupal 10 site to be more and more and more compatible with Drupal 11. And so the point of upgrading is when your site is ready to upgrade. I don't think that 10.4 or 10.5 will make it any more easier to upgrade other than potentially some bugs being fixed. But there's not a system that we want to design to easier upgrade, no.
Good. So, yeah, so this is the point where I would suggest for you what you should do. Create a branch already for your project. Like, don't think that you might go live with it in 6 months or something, but create a branch already. Start applying all the project update bot patches to that branch that you have, and try to run your site. Why? Because update bot and Rector, they are very good, but they're not perfect.
Yes.
So the upgrade status module might say everything is ready. There is a stable release. You go run it on your site, and you get a white screen of this. It happens. There are many modules that the upgrade group is going to come in. It's going to change the info YAML. It's going to release a new version. Say this is ready for Drupal 11, but they are not actually going to test the whole thing. If it doesn't have PHP unit tests, there might be a bug. So try and test early. And when finally your site is fully running, then move. And to get it running easier, if you find any problems, go into the issues and make review, RTBC, fight for it, so that eventually someone does get the stable release out.
Yeah, upgrade status has like an explicit way of nudging you to go into the issue queue and help with the issues of the project when it's not ready. That's by design, because that's the only way that we're going to make it work. If people encounter that something's not ready, then they work together instead of just like working in a silo themselves. So applying those patches and then see if they work and providing that feedback on the issue is great. All right. I think my time is up, so you should go for your break. Thank you. I will be around the whole week, so we can talk. And I have my stickers, so if anybody wants. This goes to Drupal 11. I have stickers. Yes.